My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
Oh, Judd, you muted?
I was muted. Thank you, AJ. Now I'm not muted. It is Judd's Hockey Show. I'll try this again. Wild losing overtime last night by a final of 3-2 to the New York Rangers. So they do get a point, which is actually somewhat important because they're at 8 points up on Calgary and Vancouver, which are tied for the last playoff spot. Plenty to get to with AJ, but before I do, I want to remind you again that you can join us for Judd's Hockey Show on March 24th at Padres in Minneapolis for a recording of Judd's Hockey Show Unplugged with the two of us. Your first drink of the night is on Padres just for coming out. Hang out, watch us record a live podcast, and just as important, we'll have a microphone there for you to give your thoughts, your feedback on the team. And then stick around. We're all going to watch some of the Wild Dallas game at 7 p.m. You do need to register to attend this on March 24th. It is free, but we just basically need to get a head count. Sign up at scorenorth.com/JHS Unplugged. Padres, which is, of course, a great place to enjoy some fantastic beers because all they do is beer, is located in the historic Broadway building on the corner of Broadway and Central Avenue South in Northeast Minneapolis. So join us for JHS, the first ever Unplugged. Those events are always fun. All right, the game last night. I got some notes to get to. I actually went from our event that we did for Purple Daily to the game to watch it. You went home and watched it. And an interesting game, I thought. I thought it was a little more wide open than certainly the Colorado game was from a Wild perspective. But they did play, they played very hard again. They cannot score a goal to save their lives. I think we all know why. But let's start this time with where we ended the show last time. And that is this philosophy of when you force overtime, trying to get to a shootout. Now, last night, in the Colorado game, the Wild actually in the OT did a great job. I thought they won most of the faceoffs, and they held possession. And they literally just held possession. And they got one shot, I think it was Boldy's shot with like 2 seconds left, because they did not want to shoot. Last night, they did not hold possession as much, but when they did, Boldy again was turning back, from the Ranger zone. He was turning back towards the blue line. They were clearly, the mission was to try to force a shootout. Brock Faber finally shot. He fanned the shot, and we'll get to Brock as well. And then they come down, and partially because Brock got walked, the Rangers scored and won. But you sent me a note, and I think you tweeted this too, and I agree. This is no way to live. Not in this format. 3-on-3. I understand what you're doing 5-on-5. And I know what you're trying to do 3-on-3 to try to milk points. But I think you refer to it as playing scared. And I'm sorry. I can't subscribe. If you have possession in the OT, I would rather that you do what teams I feel like used to do when the 3-on-3 started, which was great, which is race to score. Just try, if you get possession, just go try to score. Trying to milk 5 minutes off of a clock is, like you said, scared. And the other thing is, for the most part, in that format, it shouldn't work. I don't want it to work. I want you to lose. You probably will lose. And trying to get to a gimmick to get the extra point, I would rather that you have your best players on the ice to start the OT. If you win the draw, you get possession. Go and try and score as quickly as possible, as opposed to this, because it feels like the recipe for a slow death.
So you mentioned you went from the event last night for Purple Daily to the rink. I went home. Being home, I have the luxury. I rewound and watched the overtime session probably 5 times. It was 1:51.
You're sick. You're a sick puppy. I love this.
Because I wanted to break this down, because I was like, they surely couldn't have done this again. For the 1:51 leading up to the goal scored by Braden Schneider, which was briefly under scrutiny by the goal situation room in Toronto. First off, I want to get it out of the way. Did Gustafsson get bumped? Yes. Did he have more than enough time to recollect himself and position himself in a spot to make the save? Yes. That was the right call. There's no doubt about that. minute and 51. The Wild first gained possession of the puck at the let's see, so it'd be 22 seconds in. 4:38 was left in the session. They then held the puck, and it wasn't all time on attack for 1 minute and 3 seconds. In that minute and 3 seconds, I counted 4 times crossing the opponent's blue line. That means 4 times I should say 3 times they circled back, because on the first initial rush, I'm not going to count that. In a minute, 3 times you're backing out of the zone willingly. And then the one time that really had any shred of offense going was the pass they weaved at the top, thrown off to Brock Faber. Faber tries to shoot, kind of falls off the heel of his stick. He whiffs, they go down the other way. The difference from what the Rangers did to what the Wild did: the first time they won the opening faceoff, they kind of collected and got in a formation they wanted. They drove up the ice. They had a quick pass to, I want to say it was Panarin at the top of the zone, who fired wide. They give possession up, and that's where the Wild initially took it.
Yep.
Upon regaining possession, they once again found their formation. They went up the ice. It wasn't a mad rush, but they worked their way up in an efficient manner. As soon as they crossed the blue line, Judd, there was a weaving pattern that allowed a drop pass, that allowed Schneider to, as you said, walk Faber. But he drove to the net, as did all 3 Ranger players. And that's the difference here. You have 3 players for the Rangers committing to offense. And that's where I can't understand this thought process by the Wild. Against the Colorado Avalanche, on paper, I understand your rationale. You're probably outmatched. You're probably not going to win that fight, so you feel like you fare better odds getting that extra point against a division rival, going to the gimmick shootout. I can understand that. I can hear that argument. Against a team that, going into last night's overtime session, was 2-6 in overtimes on the season, you are a better team than them. Even without Kirill Kaprizov, without Joel Eriksson, without Jonas Brodin, I think you can make a pretty outstanding argument that the Wild are better on paper. Why are you playing so scared? Why are you in your own building backing off and, we're going to wait for the perfect moment, but if it doesn't, that's all right, because we can go to the shootout, because we've got Freddie Phone Booth, and we've got Matt No Move Zuccarello, and we've got Gustafsson and net. Take the game by the horns. Let's commit to offense. It cannot be that tough to choreograph something as professional hockey players, where there's a weaving pattern. You like to do it at the top of the zone that has one person with an option to either drop the pass off and then crash the net, or hold the puck while the other person, who was the weaving pattern, crashed the net for a shot. And then the third player there retreats to a higher position in the zone for defensive stability. It can't be that hard, but rather it's just perimeter circling. We're circling, and then, you know what? We gave the puck up. Now let's play defense. Hope we get the puck back. Pray to God it doesn't work.
Right. But even so, the thing too is, one is the thing against the Avs worked, but the problem there is it's not going to work continually. You're not going to get the 2 points. You're going to give up possession. You're trying to play keep away. That is, you are playing with the hockey gods right there. Because guess what? Someone's going to give the puck up. Now, maybe it didn't happen on Sunday, but the other thing too is, I understand that the Rangers right now or have more high-end talent than you, but that should mean that your guys, your highest end guys that are left in overtime, those guys should be on the attack. Matt Boldy should not be turning the puck back to his own zone like he is Yakov Trenin. See, this is the problem. It's just it's a silly philosophy. Yeah. You're not, and it's not going to work. And it didn't work last night because, my God, Brock attempted a shot. It didn't even go on goal. The Wild had 0 shots on goal in the OT, despite all of the possession you just talked about. And Brock whiffed a shot. It didn't even go on goal, and you gave up a goal. Why? Because the Rangers, like you just said, attacked you. So, and if you play the Avs were coming off a back-to-back and were tired on Tuesday. Yep. But if you play the Avs 10 times and you pull that stunt that you pulled on Tuesday, you'll lose 9 times. If they're rested, you'll lose. They will get the puck from you. They Absolutely. Didn't in that case, but that's by the grace of God. So, and I'm just saying, one, it's an affront as a hockey fan to watch that crap. You're literally sending up your cleanup hitter and bunting. So it's just an affront to the sport. But the other thing is, it's not that creative. I understand if you want to go into more of a shell, sometimes I like it, sometimes I think it's stupid. 5-on-5, I understand that a little bit more. But 3-on-3, the game is designed so you shouldn't.
Mhm.
And you're basically saying, no, we're going to. And what you saw last night, and it shouldn't be like, for those who come back and say, well, you see, it was proved they gave up the puck and they were scored on. If that's how you feel about the team, then forget about it. Then what are we doing here? What are we doing here? And that gets us into Brock. So,
well, I would say even first off, is that more an indictment on the coaching staff? Because I don't think Matt Boldy and Freddy Gaudreau and Marcus Johansson, Brock Faber going out there saying, guys, let's just hold on to the puck. I'm sure that's
it's
the game plan they're being told, correct?
Yeah, and I think John Hines has had a really good year, but the fact is, I think he's desperate.
It feels like that's the safe play.
But when you have your top guys out there, which you do because it's 5, it should be 10. If it was 10, it'd be way more fun because then you would race to score because you want to desperately get done, and your odds of playing keep away for 10 are almost nil. Yeah. But it's desperate, and if you were playing your fourth line guys in OT, I'd get it completely. I'd be like, I don't think it'll work, but but. If you're telling Matt Boldy, hey, dude, whatever you do, don't shoot the puck. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Get to the net, get the puck, get possession, and go try to score. Take a shot. You might get a rebound. It's just, it seems to me that this philosophy is, to use your term again, I think it's perfect, is just so scared. But that gets us to Faber. Last night, 29 minutes and 42 seconds. And again, I'll continue to say this. Brock Faber didn't have a bad game. Brock Faber plays his ass off every game. I'm never going, until I have a reason to, I'm never going to dump on this guy. I think he's a really good, talented, one of the best players on the team. And heck, he is a upper echelon National Hockey League defenseman. But in overtime, he looked like he could barely skate anymore. First of all, he whiffed the shot because I think he was tired. But second of all, when he got walked by Braden Schneider, and that was a great move by Schneider.
Yep.
But how often have you seen Matthew Boldy, Brock Faber at his best get beaten like that?
That's only going to happen when he's playing close to 30 minutes. And even then, we've seen it where he can play 30 minutes and he still looks like a fresh daisy in the morning. Like he looks spry and he's active and he's quick on his feet. Like, I don't know. I don't want to keep hanging on the Four Nations hangover here for him, but clearly it feels like
it could just be the season too.
It could just be the season.
Like the season he plays an absolute boatload, but I just, at some point in time, and Hines was asked about Brock last night with the insinuation of he looks tired.
Yeah.
And I believe the question was, how is he playing? And Hines said, essentially, he's playing fine. He's playing well. At times he's a star. At times he's playing well. He's playing well right now. Something like that. Mm-hmm. And I don't disagree with that. But I watch that kid and I think this kid, is he going to get a second win for the playoffs? Because right now, I think you got to do something to get the minutes down. Because if he's not going to get a second wind for the springtime, here's my question: what's April going to look like?
To kind of put in perspective, time-wise versus shift-wise, what he did. Brock Faber, 30 shifts last night, according to MoneyPuck.com, 29:42 of ice time. Jared Spurgeon, 30 shifts, same amount of times leaving the bench, heading onto the ice. 21:09. We're talking 8 minutes and change of difference there. Like, Brock Faber's on the ice for an extended amount of time. He is the anchor for this team. Frankly, I don't even know if anybody wants Jonas Brodin back as bad as Brock Faber, just to get him a little bit of leeway in terms of getting on the bench and resting his legs a little bit more. There was one shot on the broadcast, and I can't remember when it came. I think it was late in the game, or it was a penalty kill or something along those lines, because he just couldn't skate. Like, he was clearly gassed and fatigued. and he got back to the bench after like Bogosian, go get a change. Let's get fresh legs. Now I'm going to go. And it was like watching like a grandfather like struggle to get back. And he sits down and he just sits down on the plops down. You can just be like, oh my God. He looks exhausted, Judd. Like, I'm not saying you have to scratch the guy or anything to get a night's rest.
But
Just
get the minutes down.
You have to just back off. Like, you have to have your captain, Jared Spurgeon, probably push closer to 24 minutes a night. You probably need Jake Middleton last night, 24:30. I think that's fine. Declan Chisholm, 16:40. Do I want Declan Chisholm on the ice for 20 minutes? Probably not, but he's going to have to probably go a little
Can
bit more.
Can we get Brock to 25?
That's the thing. You should be able to. But it's tough when you have John Merrill and Zach Bogosian doing 11 minutes only, and that's a bottom pairing D.
Yeah.
But that's where you have to consider getting a John Merrill out of the lineup for a night, bringing in David Jiricek, who, once again, why is he here to begin with if you're not going to use him?
Right.
That's a young guy with energy, with legs. That's minutes right there. And I'm not saying he's a defensive like stalwart.
And he's a right shot, and so is Zach. So what? I guess my question is, and I agree. You've got to get Faber's minutes down. But what are the pairings then? I guess is the question. Like that's probably what they're thinking. What are the pairings? Because Bogosian's a right shot, Merrill's a left shot. But this is not sustain. Like you can't do this anymore.
No,
they're going to, but you shouldn't. You can't. And I don't know it's fair to start the playoffs and say, okay, Brock, fire back up. And I know, Brodin started to skate yesterday. There's talk he'll be back, but from what you're describing and from what I saw last night, I don't know it's fair to keep doing this because Brodin's not, it's not like he's back in the next week, I don't think,
No.
So like, this is how do you get those minutes down? And I just think something has to be done to shave a little bit off his plate right now, because you can just see it. He's just not the same. He's consistently not the player that he is. And it's not, I don't think it's because he's hurt. I think it's because his legs are going.
And he's usually, I feel like, not animated with his emotions. Like when he scores, you see the celebrations and all that. But like usually he looks about as tired in minute 1 as in minute 59 most times. But that shot of him, and they did like a close-up of him on the bench, but jaw open, like gasping for air, looking up to the sky, like just exhausted, Judd. And I'm like, this is worrisome. Not in the sense of like in the long run, but just at the moment, he needs less minutes. He needs to be preserved a little bit. I get it. He's a young guy. He's got a massive extension coming up starting next season, but it's not sustainable. You can't have him be the one guy that's playing 25 plus a night and now closer to 30. If you hover around 25, he can do that because you're going to have more people step up. But I'm sure John Hines is probably thinking, well, I'd rather have 4 more minutes of Brock Faber than I would of John Merrill. And yeah, I think nobody's going to disagree with that. But you have to think about it matchup wise against Colorado. Yeah, maybe we have him play closer to the 28-29 because you need it. Against New York, a team that, I mean, what's really their direction right now? You should be able to back off a little bit. And it's tougher when you're not scoring goals. Like if you're not putting up 3-4 goals guaranteed in a game, it's tough to say we need, we have to take our best defensive player off the ice, but you can't just drive him and skate him into the ground because you need him out there. You got to back off. And
the OT showed that. Like that was, I believe that his fanning on the shot and then certainly the Schneider goal were results of him playing too much. And so he sort of cost you, but I don't blame him if that makes sense. Yeah. So there has to be something to just get him a little bit more of a break in game. How about to
your point that you've made way back, future captain, because I think some guys would probably maybe not turn and say, Coach, I need you to keep me on the bench a little bit more, but it seems like he's doing this without complaint. Like, hey, you need me, I'll go skate. I might be dead tired, but I'll go out there and I'll kill time.
Yeah. How about the Gaudreau goal last night? Power play goal. So what? I believe it was both goals scored on the power play, which was actually good to see. The Freddy Gaudreau goal. If you were at the beginning of the season to give me a list of Wild players who would score, like if you just showed me the goal but not the player, I would have a list of players that I would have before Freddie. You know what? For those who didn't see it, he got a pass from Hartman in front, which I absolutely loved because he cleaned up in front on the backhand, made a nice move to the forehand, beat Shesterkin, who was fantastic last night. And as far as the hands went, it was a reminder to me of 2 years ago age on the shootout, because Gaudreau had that great year on the shootout, and it's because his hands were really good.
Yeah, like
and
a UC Jokinen type year where he just couldn't get stopped.
That goal last night reminded me of the soft mitts that Freddie possesses that at his best is actually really impressive and completely shocking for a guy we don't expect that from on an ordinary basis.
Yeah, and it was the power play points, like that coming through was a nice change of pace. First off, congrats to Gustav Nyquist for tallying his first point as a member of the Minnesota Wild again. That was nice to see. Thank you for showing up. But yeah, Freddy Gaudreau, I mean, the positioning there was good, and I think that's what they would like to do more often than not. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like that was the one where John Hines yanked the top unit.
He did.
Under a minute, like he's like, guys, you're not doing it for me. Let's get the second unit out there. And they worked. They got to the front, and Freddie, really good credit to him. I think it was Vakanainen who gave him an extra step or two of space to allow him to make the pivot, the transition from backhand to forehand and make the move. But that was decent puck movement. And that's where I was sitting watching again, because it feels like they like standing in their spots. But I need the weak side winger to start doing what I'm trying to think I think Florida has been doing it a lot this year, but blind spot motion, which is you have everybody looking one way. If you're standing behind them, start anticipating a pass, because first off, they want to obviously get the puck to the front even when it's 5-on-5, but start making that cut to the middle. So it's a quick receive and snap, and you're in a great position because nobody has time to react. They just don't do that. They like setting up shop. And so sometimes you're going to want to have that one-time option, but Freddy Gaudreau, he does make a kind of behind the play cut down low. He gets lost in translation as the puck gets circled to the top. He sneaks out front, and that's where the pass comes in. It was a good goal. Like Freddy Gaudreau, a guy that I think we are both very much on record saying skill-wise, he doesn't match like top players a lot, but effort-wise, I think he brings it every single night.
Yep.
That was a great display of skill. It shouldn't be shocking because we know he has it in the bag from his shootout moves, but it's good to see it in a game setting, not in a, hey, it's one-on-one with the goalie. You have as much time as you want.
Last thing for you. As you said, Gustav Nyquist, congrats on the point. But how about the fourth line last night? The fourth line, Devon Shore, Trennan, Brazeau, who has actually improved in the past 2 games. Brazeau had a scoring chance that was magnificent. He should have scored. Shesterkin made a phenomenal save. Again, Shesterkin was great last night. And as a threesome, the fourth line only had 2 shots on goal. But that being said, that's as noticeable as they have been since the trade. And I can play with that. I can deal with that. They are what they are. They're too slow. I don't love it. But I felt last night like we got the requisite effort necessary that I don't know that we had seen up until, well, part of the Avs game probably, but really way more so against the Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they're starting to gel a little bit. If that sort of play is what is going to help maybe elevate Trennan's game to where, I mean, he
just has to care.
Yeah, and it looked like last night, and it looked like partly in the Avs game, it started picking up. So if that continues, then by all means, like that's a delightful fourth line. Is it going to be the same fourth line that I think the Wild had a month back when it was Lauko, Husnudinov, and Shore? I don't think so. Like frankly, right now, especially, I don't know if you saw it.
I saw the goal.
First goal as a Bruin. Congrats, Marat.
Nice goal too.
Yeah,
and he's got speed. I know.
I saw the narrative of like, oh, where was that for the first 60 game? Well, guys, it's the new location bump. Like if that continues the final 20 games of the season, then yeah, I think
he wasn't as bad as everybody said. Like I don't defend players much at all, but in the case of Hustadinov, he was not as bad. I know the analytics don't like him, But
Yeah.
it's 2025. Give me the speed.
Mhm.
Give me the speed. You know what Trennan is? Trennan is a poor man's JoJo.
Please elaborate.
Marcus Johansson and Trennan have one thing in common. If they decide to play hard and they play their games, they're both pretty good. You know, they're or passable. I mean, Johansson showed up last night for the most part, and he scored a goal, and he used his speed, and he looked really good. Trennan, it's a very different skill set. He plays hard,
yes,
he hits, but you know, it's an indictment when they don't do that, and you watch them. It's an indictment of how little that they actually care at times.
Yeah, but if they can keep up the play and effort, mainly the effort and engagement level that we kind of talk about, honestly, with Boldy, that is a contributing fourth line, which is all I really want. Like, go out there, you're going to throw the body around positioning wise, and you're going to have what we saw. You're going to generate scoring chances every once in a while because people are just not going to be able to move you around. Brazeau, I think from the first game where he didn't play a shift in the third period to what we saw last night, has drastically improved. Like I'm not going to say like I'm a fan all of a sudden of that trade, but I am coming around on it because he looks like he's going to help and benefit in some way. Once again though, it's a fourth line guy. Finishing touch, I don't expect to be there all the time, but like you said, it was a really good chance. I would love to see you bury it.
All right, great stuff, sir. The 7-game never-ending homestand continues against the Blues on Saturday, so I'm sure that we will be back soon. And don't forget the event at Padres as well. Should be a great time. So hope that you join us. Judd's Hockey Show. We'll talk to you later.